So 8.3, we're going to start looking at negative exponents and 0 exponents. So let's do the 0 first, because that's actually easier, okay? So 0 exponent. I'm just going to look at A first here. First of all, one thing to keep in mind is the exponent applies to everything in parentheses. I want you to write that. Exponent applies to everything in parentheses. You can just put parentheses if you want. But if there's no parentheses, it's only what is directly in front of it, which we'll look at on B. So if we look at A, what all is included with the exponent of 0? So what does the 0 apply to? Everything, okay? And the 0 exponent property says that if A, so if you look here, A to the 0 power equals 1, okay? So in this case, if it has everything, what does this equal? Nope.
Anything with a 0 property, or 0 power.
Equals 1. Bless you. Okay, so this looks really super complicated, right? But if the 0 applies to everything, it kind of think like cancels it out, makes it 1. Okay? So now B, are there parentheses on B? No. So the exponent only applies. So exponent only applies to what is right in front of it. So once you have that, think about, okay, what does the 0 exponent apply to then? So does it go to the A? No? Does it go to the A on the bottom? Does it go to the B? Priscilla, what do you think? Yes, so only the B, okay? So only the B becomes 0, or it becomes 1. So B to the 0 power. So if you see, they replace that here. They replace that with 1. But if we multiply something by 1, does it change that number? No, it just keeps it the same, right? So then they did, this is from last time, that's A to the 4th divided by A to the 2nd. If we are dividing with same bases, we keep the A, and what do we do with the exponents? Baden, put that away. When we're dividing, what do we do with the exponents? Opposite. Yes. So when we multiply, we add them, divide them, subtract them. Do you have a?
I was going to say, think of like when you're adding a whole bunch of numbers, it's the same as getting bigger than multiplying, right? So when you divide them, it's the same as getting smaller, subtracting. So just group those two that way.
Okay, so let's look at this one here. So if you move down to check there. So okay, so think about everything that has a 0, we're going to make a what? 0 power makes that become what? 1. So I'm just going to replace everything we can. So 56, G to the 2nd, H. What can I put if there's no exponent? Like the H doesn't have an exponent. 1. So I like to write that so we don't forget it. J to the 11th. Whoops, I wrote that as not an exponent. Okay, the bottom. Does the 0 exponent go to the 8? So if you look at the bottom, is it on the 8 too? Remember, only what's directly in front of it, so just the G actually. So I'm going to keep the 8. Now G to the 0 would become 1. So that's like 8 times 1. What about H to the 0? 1 and 1 again. So do I need to put times 1 times 1 times 1? Why not? Yeah, that's still going to be what on bottom? 8. So I can kind of get rid of those. All right, now we do like last time. So division. Divide the numbers. What's 56 divided by 8? And you can type it in. 56 divided by 8 is what? 7. Thank you, Jackie. And is there anything to like combine with these variables? Any like terms for those? Like, is there a G on bottom?
No.
Nope, then I just write them here. Remember, I don't have to have H to the first. I can leave that as H.
The answer is A.
So the answer is what? A. Okay, so it looks a little more complicated, but don't forget those zeros cancel out to make it equal 1. Okay, today is going to be a lot of simplifying. So you're not, when you have these exponents with variables, you're not going to solve and get like the answer is 4. Okay, you have to simplify. So these are some things you want to make sure you've done to know that they're simplified. So I can't have, it should only have positive exponents. Each base only appears once. There are no powers of powers, so that looks like this, like x to the 4th to the 2nd, like their double power, okay? And then all fractions are in simplest form. Like, can we simplify, like 2 over 8? We'd simplify that down to 1 over 4, etc. Okay, negative exponents. So I think these are the toughest, maybe. So I'm going to have you write some notes here. Do you guys have some space? Let's see. Not many, not much, right? Let's write it here. Okay? So these are some notes to go with the negative exponents. You may also have a little space like down here. That's fine too. Whatever works best for you. Okay. So if I look, I want you to write well, let me skip that. When you do an exponent, so any bases, so base would be like the regular number or the variable, okay? So if they have a negative exponent, so any bases with negative exponent, flip the base. So if it was on the bottom of the problem, now it's on the top. If it was on the top, now it's on the bottom. And make exponent positive. I kind of shortened a little bit there to fit it. If you guys know it, if you want to shorten them, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to skip this one. It's not the best example here. I'm going to look at the one that says check. Does everyone have that part? Are we good to try one here? Okay, so if I look here, now I still want to remember everything from the division. So can I divide 42 and 14 to be a whole number?
Yes.
Okay, what would it be? 3. So 42 divided by 14 is 3. All right. Now, what do I do with these negative, or when I'm dividing like r to the negative second over r to the second? It's division, so what do I do with the exponents? Subtraction. Okay, so we're going to write this one out long and then we'll simplify. So what's the top one? R to the, okay, and then what am I subtracting from it? Let's look on the bottom. What's underneath it? 2. So minus 2. Okay, now t, is there anything, so it's t to the negative 6. Is there anything on bottom that I need to subtract from that? Is there another t? Nope, so leave that. Okay. Now u to the 3rd, is there anything to subtract from that on bottom? Okay, so I'm going to put, now be really careful here, minus, because I'm subtracting, but then I have to put negative 3 because it was already a negative. Okay, now let's simplify. So we have the 3. What is negative 2? And I would use your calculator for these, guys, because it is easy to mess those up and make a mistake. So what is negative 2 minus 2? What? Negative 4. Okay, nothing to go with the t, right? So I leave the t the same. Now type in the 3 part. So 3, make sure you do minus negative 3. It's got to be both. Does anyone remember what happens when you minus a negative? It cancels out to make it like 3 plus 3. But if you type it in your calculator as 3 minus negative 3, that should work. So what's that going to be then? 6. Okay, so what I did here was we just did the division. So divide and subtract exponents. Okay, we simplified there. And third, we have to get rid of, so move our negative exponents. Oops. Okay, so like we did before. So the 3, does the 3 have a negative exponent? It doesn't have an exponent at all. So 3 is just 3. Okay, now the exponent only goes with what's right in front of it, okay? So the negative 4 goes with what? The r, only the r. So I take that, put it on bottom, and make negative 4 become what? Positive, just 4. Okay, what about the t? Will it stay or go to the bottom? Bottom, and it becomes t to the 6th. Do I need to move u to the 6th? No, I said no. Whoopsie. Yeah, that's good. Positive stays put. And then we want to make sure there's nothing else to be simplified. So check your little list here. Does it only contain positive exponents? So looking at our bottom, are all those exponents positive? Yes. Do all of the bases, so like the variables and the numbers, so those only appear one time? Like is there one u, one r, one t? Yes. Are there any powers of powers, so like that exponent outside of the parenthesis? We never had any of those to begin with. And then we don't have a fraction, but if we did, we want to make sure it's in simplest form. So that one is done. Okay, and then on this page, if you need, you can look at the example 3 here. They kind of make it a little tricky. So let's look at the check question instead. Okay, I want you guys to, let's just see where we can get started, okay? So can I do anything with the numbers? So 35 and 14. 14 doesn't go into 35, but what goes into both of those? 7. Perfect. So I want to divide each of these by 7. So what does that become then? 35 divided by 7 would give us 5. And on the bottom, 14 divided by 7 would give us 2. Okay, now I can do my basis, subtraction, etc. Oops. Okay, so h to the 0 over h to the 2nd. So I'm looking here and here. What do I do with those? Keep the h, but what do I do with the exponents? Subtract. So that's 0 minus 2. Okay, so j to the negative 5th. Is there anything on bottom to go with the j? Is there another j? No, so I leave that one right now. Okay, is there anything to go with the k to the negative 2nd? Nope. And then on bottom, so this doesn't always happen to us, but there's a variable on bottom that's not on top. So can I do anything to that one? No, and it just needs to stay on bottom. All right, if I said this was my answer, Why would this not be okay? So what did we list in that?
Still negative.
Still negative, okay? Let's go ahead and simplify. I didn't simplify 8. So what's 0 minus 2? That would give us an exponent of what? Negative 2. So anything negative now I need to move to the bottom. So 5 stays. 2 stays. What do I do with the h? If it's to the negative 2. Put it to the bottom. And when it moves to the bottom, what's it do? Turns positive. Okay. Sam, do I need to move the, and if you want, like to mark these off as you go to know you did them, you can. Sam, do I need to move the j to the negative 5th?
Yeah.
Yes. So if I move it down here, what's the negative 5 become? Positive. Good. Nathan, do I need to move the k? Yeah. And what will it become? 2. And then I also had that m down there already, right? Whew, goodness, what a mess.
Why does he stay at the bottom, you guys? We switched everything else.
He's already positive.
If it were negative, where would I put it?
That's up.
Right, so you're just flipping it either way. Usually they end up being on bottom, but occasionally it's the other way. All right, so which letter is this then?
A.
What?
A.
Say B?
Yep.
Okay, kind of sounded like, I don't know what it sounded like. All right, let's
So,
see here.
just because
So on page 451, I wrote them up here too. But for your homework, you will circle 2, 4, 8, 10, 12, 18. Okay, so since we're splitting this up like 2 lessons today again, we just did 8.3. So I'm going to give you like, we'll do 5 minutes and then we'll see which questions you have and we can maybe work a couple out together. Okay? So go through these, look at which ones you know, and then we'll see which ones you need help with. Your answer should not be all of them. Okay? Let's look at 8 real quick. So 8 has the power of a power first. So I know that because those parentheses with the exponent right outside, okay? So everyone should have 8 written down here. Okay? So I take the 3 to everything. So what do I do when it's that double power? Do I add or multiply? What? Multiply. So z will now be z 2 times 3 is z to the 6th. And then w, negative 1 times 3 is w to the what? Negative third. Okay, now the bottom has a different exponent. It has the 2, right? So I take the 2. So z will be 6 again. And w will be 4. Good. Okay, now I need to do what next? What do I do next? What kind of problem is this? Is this multiply or divide? Divide. So what do I do with the exponents then? Not yet. Say that. Let's say that to last. What? Subtract them. So if I do z to the 6th minus 6, 0. So what do I do to it?
Erase it from existence.
Kinda. Cancel it out. Does that work for you? So you can think cancel out if they're exactly the same. Joan, you awake? Okay. And then w to the negative third. And what I do with 4? It's division. Add or subtract it? Subtract it, which is going to be w to the negative what? 7. Okay, this one's a little tricky because there's nothing on bottom. Usually we just like move it to the bottom, right? So what do we put something over if there's nothing there? A 1. And then I would flip it to the bottom. So if I put it down here, what's on top now? The 1. They kind of like flip there. Okay? Okay, so now take your 5 minutes, work on any ones there. The others are pretty similar to our notes. So 51 divided by 17, 3. Okay, on the exponents, you have to subtract them. So x to the negative first minus 2. What will that be? Negative 1 minus 2. What? Positive or negative? Negative, so super close. Okay, and then y, remember you can put a 1 on that one at the bottom. So that'll be y 3 minus 1. Okay, so that will be what? Y to the 2. Okay, what do we have to move? What do we have to flip? If it were, we flip the negatives to make them positive. So which part is negative? The 3, the x, or the y? The 3 or the x? Yeah, but the negative 3 goes with the x, right? So what's directly in front? Okay, so that'll be, now the 3, if it's not negative, it stays on top, if it's not a negative exponent. So 3 will stay on top. What else will stay on top? Y to the second. And if I put this on bottom, what happens to the exponent? Positive. Any questions there? Okay. 18, there's a couple ways you can do it. Like Austin canceled his out and made these 1 first. I subtracted first. Either way. So if I do, which did you guys think to do? Did you subtract first or make them 1s first? So what? Subtracted? Okay. So if I do g to the 0, remember this one's tough because it's minus negative 5. So what's 0 minus negative 5? Positive 5. All right, and then h will be 7 minus 0. Hopefully that one's easy, right? So that'll be h to the 7. Okay, j is a little tough. So the top one is negative 2. Then what would I type, or what would I write? Minus negative 2, which makes those negatives cancel there. So negative 2 plus 2 would give us 0. Okay, so I have g to the 5th, h to the 7th. Do I write j to the 0? No, how come? 1, so I don't need to write times 1. So this is my final. All right, so we are going to skip to 8.4 now and do kind of look at, we're just doing one example and then you'll try some of those. Let's just take like 2 minutes and I want you to just read this page to yourself, look over it, think about kind of what questions you have, what may be confusing. Start right here where it says learn nth roots. Look at one example on this page. There's not much to work out on this page, so just kind of showing you something, okay? So look at this little powers of 1/2 is what it says. So if I have 64 and 1/2, okay, I'm going to make another one. Let's say 36 to the 1/2. So this is considered exponential form because 1/2 is its exponent. Usually we're used to seeing those as like a regular number, not a fraction. But if I want to write it, so that's exponential form. If I want to write it in what's called radical form, that's changing that into, it looks like the square root symbol, okay? The radicand is this number inside. And a square root, does anyone, like, so what does a square root mean? Like, the square root of 36 is what number times itself, though? 6. So you notice how there's 2 of them? It's not just 6, right? It's 6 times 6. So I remember that because, okay, like default or standard for a square root is that this is a 2. So they're not going to write that if that's there because that's like understood that it's always 2 numbers, like 6 and 6, okay? And then do we write, so like 36 to the first? What is any number, do you guys know, like, so if I say 24 to the first, what is that? What does that first do? Just 24, so it's just the number. So again, they don't really include the 1 because it's just that number. So I would technically just say square root of 36. So that is the same as 36 to the 1/2 power. So all we're doing on this is going back and forth, okay? So let's look at like, flip the page. We're just going to do part of this first example. See which ones it was. So we're just going to do A, because you only kind of have to know the basic form of this. And then those at the bottom. Okay, so if I look at A, is this currently 10 to the 1/2 power? Is that exponential or radical form right now? Exponential form. Okay, so they're going to want you to write it in the opposite. Okay, so they want me to write it with the radical, which is the square root symbol. So what goes in there? The 10. Okay, where would the 2, so here's how I told, last year I told them to remember it. So you might want to write this. So top, so if I have like 1/2, top number stays, bottom goes. So the 1, see how it's on top? It stays with the 10. Where would the 2 go? So it goes outside of the little box. So the top number stays in, the bottom goes. You do want to simplify that. So I need to put the 1. What's 10 to the first? Just 10, so I don't need the 1. And in this case, I actually don't need the 2 either because that's considered like standard. If you put it, I won't count it wrong, okay? But if they don't put it, remember that is a 2 because that's like standard. It's always what numbers times itself, so there's 2 of them. So that would be our answer. Okay, so we'll do the checks here. All right, so if you look at A, so that radical is over the 16 and the P, okay? So what can I put if they didn't show something here? It's a 2. And if they didn't show something here, what is it? A 1. Oh, sorry. And now I just write it. Technically, I want to kind of put that in parentheses so I know that this applies to everything. So what number would be on top, the 1 or the 2? The 1, because the top number stays, so that one stayed in. The bottom would be 2. Okay, now this one is in exponential form. We want to go the other way. So if I write my radical, what goes inside? What number should be inside?
34.
34. And then the top number stays. So what do I put with the 34? 1. What goes outside?
2.
2. But I want to simplest form this. So do I need the 1 or the 2 in this case? No. So it's just square root of 34. We're going to try a harder one here in a minute, though. Actually, I'm going to mark these off because they're the same. Okay, so we're just going to skip to trying a couple on your homework. So flip to page 459. Okay, so 459, you're going to circle 2, 4. That's all on that page. So we just did these, okay? So 2 and 4, I want you to, you'll try.
Radical or exponential?
Yes, so what are these both currently in?
Radical.
R-
Or
No,
the top one's in radical, right?
they're both in exponential. Radical will have the sign,
Oh.
like the symbol. So these ones you want to write in radical form. Oh, let me add 6 to that, sorry. 2, 4, 6. Here, Austin, I added 1 if you asked earlier. I thought I had 1 of each. So 2, 4, 6. So those are pretty much just like the ones we just did. So I want to show you ones on the next page. So flip to 460. And we need 34, 36, 38. So I will do 36 with you. So is it currently in exponential or radical form? What's this right now? Exponential, so I know I want the radical then. What number would be, or what variable in this case would be inside? On 36, sorry. So m, yeah. Okay, which number stays inside? Which number goes out? Top stays, so the 2 stays. 3 goes outside. Perfect. Now, are either of these, like if this were a 1, I don't have to write it, but 2 I do. And if this number were a 2, I wouldn't have to, but 3 I do. Okay, so that's kind of tricky there. So 36 is done. Quick note, what can you add to H if there's nothing here? You can add a 1 if that helps you remember to put that. Okay, so then you have 2, 4, 6, 34, 36, 38. So you have the rest of the time to work on those. Please remember to submit each part of your picture for your homework.